Hello, welcome. Hello, Lana. Hello, Debs. Hello, Julia. If you are able to turn your camera on, it's always lovely to see everybody who's on the call. But if you're not able to, that's also understandable. Um, so yeah, this is a free information session for those who are interested in joining the 1 year Silent Birthkeeper immersion, which takes place online, but also comes with these interactive calls. And yeah, the intention of today's session is to yeah, get a sense of the space, get a sense of the people holding space in the space, and yeah, the kind of things that we explore in the 1 year journey together. Um, some of you, I think we had 10 or 12 people sign up for the call. So I think most of you are going to be catching up with the recording and getting a sense of it all through that. But yeah, we've made a list of your questions, so we will go through those and then yeah, just cover things from our side as well. Yeah, but before we delve into all of that kind of more heady stuff, it's traditional in this space just to take a moment to pause and arrive and center and ground ourselves in the space. And so, yeah, let's do that. So I invite you to, wherever you are, make yourself comfortable. Um, Whether you're sitting on the floor or a bed or a couch or a chair, just allow yourself to sink into where you are, really feel the contact of your body against the surfaces that you are touching. So your buttocks on the chair or the floor, or couch, bed, your feet on the floor, your back leaning against the wall or the back of the chair or wherever you might be, and just really allow those points of contact to support you and hold you and really feel what it feels like to allow that. Because so often in life we just hold ourselves up all the time, figuratively and literally. And so it's an opportunity to just feel held and see what that feels like and to allow that. And to just take a moment to come into contact with your own breath and not to change it or manipulate it in any way, just to get a sense of where your breath is at and where you are at. And just take a moment to just feel into your own breath, your own life source. Feel as it enters your body and fills your lungs, fills your heart space, and spreads into the rest of your being. And then also feel what it feels like when it leaves your body, the deflation, the warmth of it leaving your body. I always find it so interesting that there's this coolness to the breath that we take in, and then once the body has absorbed what it needs, when it leaves us, it's warm. And then just taking a moment to just feel into the sense of sound and the sound or the silence that is surrounding you. Initially, we often hear silence, and then from the silence can arise the sound of our own breathing or the sound of birds or cars. For me, it's my dog snoring in the corner, the sounds of life. Yeah, just taking this moment to be in the present, to be in the now, to be here. And then coming back to your breath, back to your body. Coming back to these points of contact. And then when you feel ready, if you had your eyes closed, I forgot to invite you to close your eyes, but if you had your eyes closed, you are welcome to open them. Thank you. Hmm.
There were
So
two
I just
people.
want to
Sorry.
take a
Good.
moment to honor two things today. So yesterday was the death anniversary of Michel Audin, who is very much the grandfather of the space of the true midwifery space and of the silent birthkeeper, the concept of the silent birthkeeper. And so I just want to take a moment to just honor him and appreciate him. And yeah, we'll speak a little bit more more into him when we share about the silent birthkeeper and its origins, but just yeah, wanting to take a moment there. And then it's my third child, my youngest son's birthday today. So he turns 20 today. So it's his crown birthday today is the 20th of August. And I say that at exactly 11:11 my time. So he is 20 today. And yeah, he would have been born, he was born at 10:24. So he's just over half an hour. He's 20 years and half an hour after a 2-hour labor and 17 days late. Late, whatever that means. And it's just interesting because I mean, I was saying it to my partner this morning. It's just like, I mean, I think those of us who attend births on a regular basis and, you know, who also get to know the children whose births we were at, and if we speak to mothers, like the picture of their birth often will show up in their children's lives, and he is just very much like that. You know, he will procrastinate, procrastinate, procrastinate. He doesn't mind me saying this because he knows this is part of his personality. Procrastinate, 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 and then last minute he will get whatever it is that needs to happen done and very quickly. So that's very much his birth. So I have a rose here to honor Michelle and Ayo, my youngest and my biggest. So he was 5.5 kilos at birth, which is 12 pounds. So that's also his claim to fame. But yeah, the Silent Birthkeeper. So how it started was actually very much in this room because it was actually lockdown. And I was still very actively attending births at that time. Funnily enough, even though the world had kind of shut down, I was able to navigate where I lived and attend births and all of that. But I had also been quite actively traveling before that and teaching workshops and running retreats. And I wasn't able to do that anymore. And there was a French group who was very keen. Well, I was actually meant to be going and teaching them, and I couldn't. And so we decided that we would uh, create some content that I could send to them so that they could still do the learning around it. And so the original planning happened in this room, in this very room. But we on the property where I live, my landlord he's a filmmaker, a documentary filmmaker, and he has a little film studio here. And so I spoke to him, and he and I then ended up creating the content, which then became initially Maïotique Silencieuse, which is the French version of the Silent Birthkeeper, and then it also then grew into the English version. So we ended up creating these two online offerings of the of the Silent Birthkeeper in these two different languages. And yeah, I mean, I think it was very much based on the workshops that I had been giving anyway, which there were kind of two sides to it. So on the one hand, it had to do with the fact that, firstly, I've just never believed that the work around pregnancy, birth, postpartum breastfeeding babies, that there needs to be gatekeeping around it. I think one of the things that I learned and realized very quickly when I was studying midwifery was like, why is this such a guarded secret? Like, why is this not something that we're learning growing up as girls and women? And why is this not something that our aunts are passing down to us? And I think once upon a time they might have. But yeah, just when I was learning, I just kind of thought like, well, let's create circles of women where we share this anyway. And so I would say that my workshops and retreats were very much around that. Um, but also, there were definitely things in my training, in my learning, where there were definitely things that were missing, and things that I realized through my own personal learning and my once was actively attending births, where they were just things that were missing that I really felt were actually really essential. And I think some key things were a real true understanding of birth physiology and what it means to hold space for that and to protect it and guard it and to create environments where that can actually happen spontaneously, because it can and it does and it's meant to. So I think that was really a big part that is very foundational in the silent birthkeeper space. And then the other piece was really about how to take care of myself as a birth attendant, and to how to make this work sustainable, and how to make it not only about an act of service, but also how do I nourish myself in it, and create a balance between those two worlds. And I think that's an ongoing story. And I think what's unfolded through the Silent Birthkeeper course is that is the is that it meets the unique, well, the intention is for it to meet the unique needs of the people walking through this particular immersion. And I don't know how many we've done, because they've been, I think, 4 or 5 French ones, and I think we're on our fifth or sixth English one. Not quite actually sure. I should double check. But basically, yeah, the idea is that you step into this space because you feel called to be there, because it feels right for you. You might not know why. You might be very new to birth keeping. You might be a mother, a new mother, or becoming a mother, or thinking about it. You might be, as I said, new to the birth path. You might be a doula. You might be have walked more of a path of being a partera, a birth keeper, a traditional midwife, and maybe you're wanting to learn more skills and tools. You might be coming from a more medical background and wanting a more traditional input. You might have been walking this path for a very, very, very long time and are kind of questioning your path and what it's about. And yeah, needing a space where you can delve into who you are as a birth attendant, midwife, doula, birth keeper, and feel held in that and have a place of reflection and mirroring. So it's very broad who is welcome into the space. I mean, I don't think we've ever had somebody apply and we've said to them, I don't think you're suited. So then that's often a question that comes up for people. Hello, Yulia, nice to see you. Often what comes up for people is, can I come? I'm not qualified. These kind of things will come up for people. And I think one of the beauties of the silent birthkeeper space is that it really is the diversity of it. And by diversity, I mean, we really have people who are very much at the beginning, people who are very experienced, and everybody and everything in between. We have people from the Northern Hemisphere, from the Southern Hemisphere. We have people from all over the world. I think, the only continent that we haven't had people from is Antarctica. And yeah, I don't know if there are any. One day we'll have a sign up from there. I'm sure. Yeah, and then just stepping into this word of this title, the Silent Birthkeeper. Like, why did we choose that? And I've been reflecting on silence a lot, just, as we're about to step into this new cycle, and And yeah, just also reflecting on Michelle's death anniversary yesterday. And he was really silence was something he brought up a lot. I mean, he loved to chat. He was a chatterbox of note, and he loved to connect with people, and he loved to share. But he was just so adamant around silence just being such a key factor when holding space for birth. And yeah, I think I was reflecting on it, yeah, this past week. And one of the big things for me around it is not so much about shutting up and, just kind of grinning it and bearing it, because it's not about being uncomfortable in the birth space with your silence. It's about an internal silence. It's about how do we create spaciousness within ourselves when we're holding space for birth, so that we can really have the capacity to hold what is taking place within the birth space. And so I think one of the things that we practice in the silent birth keeper space is about quietening ourselves and having practices in place that allow us to just be centered and grounded, and yeah, and have the capacity to hold the enormity of what birth is asking of us. And then, yeah, the term birth keeper for some, in some spaces, it can be deemed quite controversial, and it's always so tricky to know what word to use. Midwife, doula, birth attendant, birth keeper, birth companion, grandmother, guardian. They're all these titles that people use in the hope that the word can embody what it is that we bring. And each word somehow always gets co-opted and demonized. And I think that's part of women's work. I mean, if we think about, the yoni, the vagina, the vulva, if you think about the word throughout history, they always find a way to make it a dirty word. Like if we think of the word cunt, for example, I mean, like in some places that is the worst insult possible, and yet it didn't start off that way. And so I think we just have to be mindful as well of, yeah, just knowing that so often what we are doing, which is like just pure women's work, and I think that's really at the core of where the silent birth keeper sits. Like if you are in your heart feeling really called to sit in a circle, albeit a virtual circle of women that are called to really hold what is truly ancient women's work, and to rediscover that together, and to feel into and think into what that really means in today's world. So we have this balance, I suppose, of the ancient and the traditional and the heart and listening to the womb and the body. And then we have, the science and the medical and all of that to tap into as well, and to really have I suppose, what one would call a postmodern understanding, actually, of what it means to hold space for birth. And it's really something we explore together and we create together. So it's not, you sign up for this course and then you work your way through your curriculum and you tick a whole lot of boxes. And then by the end of it, you have a stamp. Okay, you are now a silent birth keeper, and off you go. And we kind of churn them out like, I don't know, McDonald's chips. The idea is really for you to create to tap into the unique version of yourself, and to assimilate what it means to hold space for birth, and to learn from others who have done it before you. And also, for those of us who have been walking this path for a very, very long time, it's also really, really beneficial to receive the fresh energy and the enthusiasm and the passion of those who are just stepping onto the path. Because once upon a time we were there, and sometimes we get jaded, and we get quite cynical. And so to have that fresh, bright-eyed, bushy-tailed energy can be really, really important for the space as well. Um, yeah, so I think I'm gonna leave it there for now. I'm gonna hand the talking stick to Lana, who has been part of the uh, Silent Birthkeeper for 3 cycles. She helps me co-facilitate the space and helps me also very much in the true midwifery space to keep it afloat. She's my co-pilot, co-captain. And then dear Debs, who's yeah, also been part of this past Silent Birthkeeper. Thank you so much for being here, Debs. I'd love to hear your share. And then Julia, it would be wonderful to hear from you if you have any questions. And then we can also just go over the questions that people sent in. Thank you for listening. Lana, I'll hand to you.
Thanks, Ruth. Hi to everybody in the space and those that are watching the recording. I'm Lana. I am here in Cape Town, South Africa, same city as Ruth, although we stay about an hour with traffic apart, and we don't get to see each other in the flesh often. But yeah, Ruth, I met the day I found out I was pregnant with my second daughter. We had a mutual friend had, just come back from the States and was very excited to tell us about a new path to midwifery, having just come off the farm in Tennessee with Ina Gaskin. And I'd heard about Ruth from the midwife that she had, who was now going to be my midwife with this pregnancy, because I think she phoned every person in her phone book that day to tell her about this woman who had just given birth to a 5.5 kilo baby that day. So I'd heard about her, and she was sitting across the table from me with a 2-week-old in her arms or something. Yeah, and I think, we kind of clicked that day and decided, well, wouldn't it be nice to do something midwifery every day? And those words have come back to bite us in the bum, but, our friendship sort of started from birth, like birth, our friendship, I think, is what I want to say. And anybody who knows this is, she makes you feel as though really like she's seeing the individual in everybody. And I don't know if she does this to everybody, but with me specifically, I was already in birth work when we had met. And she just kept like grabbing me and said, come, we're going to go do this thing now. And I just reluctantly, followed along. So this is how I've ended up in this space, because it said I must come along. And yeah, it's been so fascinating to see who feels called into these spaces, because I have been blown away by the human beings that are scattered all over the world and feel similarly as I do about wanting to honor and protect the sanctity of birth, like as a rite of passage, as a human rights issue, actually. And so, yeah, as Ruth has mentioned, there comes this learning, even though I'm part of facilitating the course and relaying the content, each time a new group forms, there's a very unique collaboration that gets created. With our current group, that thing about lending energy from each other, because often people step in perhaps when they maybe not as experienced around birth, or their mothers who haven't, the initiation into birth work has just been sort of their own experiences, and feeling like they don't really have anything to offer and a lot to learn. But actually, it is that newness of stepping into something that brings its lessons, the questions that come from someone who maybe is not as experienced, are so valuable just as valuable to as the more experienced birth attendants that we have in the group. And I mean, Debs is one of our most experienced students that we've had, um, and everybody's voice is equally valued and valuable. And I think you will find that this is often a space where it is judgment free. Um, we do go very deep. It really is a journey of the self before it becomes about serving others and birth, because the foundation of it is, who am I in all of this? What type of birth guardian am I? Because whether we do birth work or not, I would like to think that each of us as human beings on this planet are guardians of birth in the same way that we are guardians of the water, of the plants, of the animals on the land and the ocean and the sky. And we have a duty to those things. But we really need to, start from, just that internal compass, like, who am I starting this journey? And what I absolutely love is just watching, where people start on that journey, and over the, year that we are together, just who comes out on the other side. I'm just blown away each time. So yeah, I really value that people seek this out. It is important that the timing of it is obviously right for everybody. But what I do love about this space is that, people come with their babes at the breast, or, they come and they're on their moon cycle, or they've just been, 2 days at the birth, and they're tucked up in their bed with a hot water bottle and their hoodie and just sort of listening in. And this idea that you can just show up as you are, where you are, how you are, with and all of it is welcome, I think does make this course so much different to maybe what else is on offer there. It's that it's you that's welcome. There's no ego here. Well, we don't. There's no judgment around that. We're not expecting perfection. As we said, this is even like the content itself is, you can pick and choose what you want to learn in which order. So obviously there is a bit of, modules and structure and so on, but nothing is obligatory or mandatory or set in stone. You can access it in a way that is manageable for you. We also, I suppose we'll go more in the logistical things once we've all introduced ourselves. But let me end it there and just sort of hand over to Debs to introduce herself and how she's been experiencing the space.
Hi, everybody. Thank you. I feel like kind of quite nervous, a bit excited, like being in this space. It's like, like a really little student. It's great. Hi, Julia. So uh, gosh, sometimes I think like, where should I start my story? I sometimes been thinking about this, um, so I've been a midwife for quite a while now. 25 plus years. I trained in the UK formally. As a young woman, I went to university at 18. It's all I wanted to do. I didn't really know of any other way to train, certainly in the UK. So I did like a 4-year midwifery degree. But within that, I had a lot of experiences with amazing mentors, physiological birth, home birth, water birth. So my path was very set about where I wanted to go and how I wanted to practice. And actually, the more I tell my story, the more I realize I think my path was set, probably thankfully to how my mum gave birth to me, how my grandma gave birth to my mum, and how my great grandma gave birth to grandma, and obviously all the other women that came before. Because actually, none of us were born in hospital. We were either at home or like a midwifery, like a midwife's home, where the midwives just kind of like a birth house, where the midwives were there and then the family doctor would come if they were called. So I really do feel I've had this aspect of birth really imprinted in me. So even though I went through the university system, I didn't get pulled into sort of the drama of the medical side of midwifery. And I really knew where I wanted to go. So off I sort of shot after training very quickly. A couple of years in the health service in the UK, but then went independent. And have done that since then. I live in Spain now, and have done for nearly 8 years. I'm actually sat in my van in Portugal waiting for a birth at the moment. So I do travelling births, and I also have been running my own workshops because I'm quite obsessed with breech and twin births. Because my twin brothers were also born when I was 10. So they're a very big part of the story of my passion around really also supporting women who maybe the medical system does not deem to kind of be allowed to be in the physiological group. So I've kind of done a lot of work with women who have complexities, extra things we need to consider. And I really very much thrived on doing that, actually, because I really do feel actually physiology remains, no matter how complicated somebody's other health issues might be, or the situation, or how many babies they've got. There's still biology there in the essence, in the core of it. And I really do feel most of the time it's perfectly able to be able to come through and to be supported. Why am I on the course? The last few years, I felt really called to be a student again. I strongly feel we never stop learning ever on this journey. And if you ever think that you have stopped learning or know it all, you will get slapped in the face by something, some crazy situation you've never come across before, you've never heard about before. And I have to say, it's still happening. So, and I just felt, really called. I think because I've been doing quite a lot of my own workshops and teaching a lot, I really felt this pull to sit on the other side and be a student. So I've got to know Ruth and Lana through being part of the study spiral groups each month, which has been amazing. Ruth and I also connected through a few other friends as well, which is really, really nice. And just felt very called to, when I read through the description before we started, it was an instant yes for me. I was just like, yes, this feels the right time. I just really want to do this. And just it is sitting in that space, like Lana talked about, of just soaking up all the differences that come, all the different people, their experiences, different questions. And I love people asking me questions because it really helps me kind of, just keep my brain alive and like, okay, do I know this, or no, actually I don't know what you're talking about. I'm going to go off and research something new, which is always great and super interesting. I've had a few things recently which have just people have come to me with, and I'm just like, I don't know, I really don't know. Okay, let's go do some research together. And that's just great. And I feel there's this Silent Birthkeeper course really creates space to just to talk about all these things and to really have a safe space as well, because birth work can be a really funny world sometimes. And I just think it is so important we find these safe spaces and we weave this web between us, this connection. Lots of us will probably be working outside the system as well, which is another element I feel which is so important, because more and more families are wanting support from people like us. But the medicalization of birth seems to be getting more and more. So this like polarization, I feel, is is getting more intense, which does put a lot of pressure on us. So having a safe space to come and talk about how we just feel, how we need to look after ourselves, and experiences we have maybe clinically or with families is just like beyond important. So yeah, I'm really enjoying my time. It is stimulated lots of great ideas for me in my own work, in my own projects that are coming, new ones that are coming to fruition as well. So it's been it's been way more than I expected, which has been just beautiful. And we're still halfway through and still halfway to go. And I just realized I think I might be in Brazil when it's our last our presentation week, because I'm going to do Nayoli Vineva's Art of Birth course in Brazil, and the our last gathering falls there, which is kind of like, oh yeah, that's just great. It just like weaves another web of like connection with her and her work. And I met her when I was in Bali with Robin Lim in April, and just feeling really powerful and strong about us all coming together in all these different spaces, but they're all interlinked. And I just think that's really important for us. So thank you.
Oh, thanks, Debs. It's been such a blessing to have you part of the space, and I'm really grateful for your share. Thank you. Yulia and Anne, you've been able to join us as well. If you are able to turn your camera on, it's always lovely to see each other's faces. Yulia, welcome. We'd love to, if you feel for, no pressure, but if you're able to share a little bit about you and yourself and what brings you into the space, and if you have any questions, welcome.
Hi everyone, I'm from Ukraine. I'm originally from here and I live here now. And I've got 3 children, and my youngest daughter was born high in the mountains. It was a solo birth, and I prepared a lot to eat, and I also read a book written by Ruth. So this small book, I don't know its original name in English, but its name was like something basic needs of a woman in labor. Yeah. I was really motivated by the literature I had read before my birth, because what I had in my first 2 births, I didn't like it actually, and I started to discover that there is something else in this space that every woman should know. And I started to get to know some women who shared their experiences with me, who had many children and they gave birth at home to them. And I was really, really inspired by them. And at one of festivals, I met my teacher. She is a traditional midwife. She is into this tradition for over 30 years, and she is an amazing woman. She has no traditional education, but she has got something like 6 educations. So she's a really well-educated person, but she's not an obstetrician. But she gained her knowledge from her grandma, from grandma, and it was like heritated to her. And I was inspired by her. And the day I met her, it was something like 5 years ago. I understood that, wow, that's what I was meant to be here on the earth. So from that period, I started to learn deeply in this topic. So I read lots of books, and I attended many courses. Oh, sorry, some explosion. So by Michelle Adon and by Liliane Lammers, by Nayoli Vinever, and I'm always inspired by beautiful people who help women in these beautiful processes, and I wanted to know something new, because there is always space to learn some beautiful stories, because how many women, so how many stories, so they are really lots of stories, so, and I'm willing to learn something new. Thank you very much.
Beautiful, Julia. Welcome. And yeah, it's so lovely to get a sense of you in the space and what brings you here. And it sounds like you were really blessed to meet your midwife. She sounds like a real gift to have met. Anne, I see your camera is off and you are muted, so I'm assuming that you're needing to stay quiet. But I know that you did put a question into the document, so I'll just find it quickly. And yeah, there were basically three themes that came. So the one is, who is the silent birth keeper for? Can I do this alongside formal midwifery training? And what do we do when fear enters the birth room? And I think, Anne, you were the one who was asking that question, which is a really great one. And I think it's something we do explore a lot in the silent birth keeper space. Because obviously a lot of us are working in different spaces and we don't always have control over the environment that we find ourselves in. Later on, I think we obviously learn to be discerning around what kind of births we attend and who we take on, but it's not always within our control what kind of dynamics are taking place within the birth space, and something that can really be a big one is fear. And I think one thing that goes back again to this, the silent birth keeper piece is this being, having, we basically we can't necessarily control the environment or the other people in the environment, but we do have a sense of control over ourselves. And so it's also, if there's fear in a space, it's also about, are we taking on that fear? Are we reacting to that fear? How are we responding to that fear? And if the fear in the space is making us reactive and it's making us agitated and it's making us anxious, then that's obviously going to have a negative effect on the birthing space. But if we can remain centered and grounded and come back to ourselves and come back into the present, then that can actually have a really big impact on the other people in the space, especially the mother. And I think, especially for the laboring mother, if she is, if there's somebody anxious around her, obviously that impacts her and that can feed into her pain and into her fear. Whereas if there's somebody who is calm and centered and grounded, it really helps her in being able to come back to herself and her body. I think we, as birth attendants, I mean, I don't know how it is for Debs and Lana, but I definitely have an agreement with the people that I'm in, taking care of, that if the dad is getting agitated, or if there's a mother of the mother that's getting anxious, that I actually have permission to ask that person to leave, and in a gentle, kind way. It doesn't have to be in a get out kind of. You don't want to bring that into a birth space either, but to really support people in understanding that their role is about protecting the space. And if they're not able to do that in a calm and centered and grounded way, then they're actually no use to the space. They're better off going off and looking after the children, or going off and making a meal, or going off and taking a walk. I mean, I remember one birth. I mean, I live in a surfing community, so this was easy to do. But I remember being at a labor once, and the dad was very fidgety and anxious, and yeah, couldn't quite sit still. And it was definitely hindering, you could see his wife's body was really trying to go into labor. And I just said to him, it might be a good idea for you to just take a break and go and do something, to just get rid of this excess energy that you have. Because often that's what the anxiety and the fear is. It's this excess energy that the person is holding. And he said, do I have time for a surf? And I said, yeah, absolutely. And he just, like, his face just lit up, and he was out the door. And yeah, it was perfect timing. It really worked out well. And once he was out, it was really like the energy settled, and yeah, the labor was able to progress beautifully. Um, and yeah, I think so there's that piece, and I think it's really important for people who are holding space for birth to really understand that that at the center, the two main people are the mother and the baby, and that's really what we're holding at the center of the birthing space, and that is what we're guarding and what we are protecting. And so, for everybody who's involved in the birthing space to know that and understand that and hold that at the center, and not to make it about themselves. And for us as birth attendants, if we're having fear coming up, and this is where the self-care piece is so key. If you're arriving at a birth anxious and afraid, and with a busy mind, and having not eaten and not slept properly, which are all very realistic ways that you might very well arrive at a birth, because you don't know when you're going to get called out and what's been happening in your life and what birth you've just been at. And you might have a child who's sick and a partner that's angry with you, And so we have to have practices in place where we can leave that stuff at the door and arrive empty, to have some kind of ritual in place or practice in place where we can come to a place of centeredness and groundedness and not bring that energy into the birthing space. So I think the best way to answer that, Anne, is to just say that it's a practice, and it's something that we honor and try to cultivate, and have an awareness of, because we do know that fear, anxiety, stress, cortisol all can have a negative effect on the labor, on the mother's being able to exude her oxytocin. And so, yeah, part of our role as a birth guardian is to protect the mother from that in the best way that we can. Yeah, I would love to ask you, Debs, actually, what you feel about the question, can I do this alongside formal midwifery training? Because you've done formal midwifery training. I mean, if you had something like the Silent Birthkeeper at the same time, do you think that's something that you could have managed, or do you think it would have been supportive, or do you think it would have been too much? I mean, we've had a handful of people who've been studying midwifery while doing this, and it's definitely a juggle. But yeah, I'd love to hear from you. What do you think?
It's so long ago. Not sure I could honestly answer you. And I was such a different person then. I was so young. I think I would have enjoyed it. It would have been good for me, because I was already kind of going down those avenues of looking at birth outside the system, very much more midwifery orientated. I was reading, back when I trained, you went to the library and read books. So there was nothing online really. And yeah, I just sort of devoured all the books about, traditional midwifery. And for me, it was still very like a far off kind of concept. It was not a UK thing, even though underground it totally was, obviously. And not that long ago was just the norm. But yes, I think you could totally do it because of it just being a monthly meetup, and also the very gentle pace for the structured online work that you have, and people being able to dip in and out of it whenever they choose on the Teachable platform. Yeah, and I think it could really keep some people sane. I think it could really give them something to get them through. Like a very good friend of mine, she came to the Daluz Patera school in Spain, and she did the 9-month program, and then she went back to the UK and did her formal training after doing Daluz, which it was really hard, and she did 3 years. It was 3 years, and she's been qualified nearly 2 years now. And yeah, she says it's, having the knowledge from the course sort of kept her sane, knowing that there was another option, and knowing that this, the medicalized route wasn't the only way. So I think it could be a real anchor for a lot of people, actually, who are going through formal training, but already are asking questions, already have an idea that maybe there's something else, or that they really want to try and protect physiology, support it. So yes, I think it would be a great idea.
Thanks, Debs. Yeah, I mean, we had Kate the one year who was very much in the thick of her midwifery placement, and it was quite funny because yeah, she would join calls, but she wasn't always able to join a full call. But sometimes I think she was like actually hiding in a cupboard somewhere, when she was supposed to be working and joining a call and then giving her input and then saying like, oh, I have to go now. And that was quite fun. It always felt like we were just getting this like transmission from what she was doing. And I think that is the beauty of the space is, we get a sense of where each person is at, and they're able to feed the reality of their, of what they're doing into the space, and we're able to nourish them through what we're bringing. And I think it's such an important component to bring into the space, because it's not about medical or non-medical in the space at all. It's really, how do you best hold the basic needs of the mother and the baby in where you are. And so whether you're doing it through having cups of tea with mothers, or through working in a hospital or in a clinic or in a home birth setting, or you run a really busy practice, or you're traveling to do it, how do you customize it according to, yeah, the lens that you're doing it through. Yeah, Lana, you were touching on how it all works, and I suppose I'll just close with that. So it takes place on three different platforms, actually, if you think about it. So the one is through Zoom like this. So as Deb said, we meet monthly, and each month there is a theme that we explore together, and we'll do that for 3 hours once a month. And it's very similar to this. We'll usually begin with a centering, a grounding, a sharing, and yeah, we have different practices in place so that we can explore those topics more fully. And the theme is then connected to the content, which is on the Teachable platform. So Teachable is one of these teaching platforms. So the course is on there. And every month a new module will open up, which is that particular theme. So the new module will open up, and then a week later we will meet to explore that theme. And then a month later, a new module will open up, and then a week later we meet so that happens monthly. And then we also have a Telegram group, which is a closed group for this particular community that you are traveling with. And that is a space where you can continue to ask questions, share things, have support within that particular cohort. And as Lana was saying, even though there is a curriculum that is unfolding over this particular year, it really is your choice as to how much and with what that you engage with. So I kind of see it more as a library or as a buffet. You don't go into the library and read every single book in the library, or you can. I mean, you're welcome to, but it's more about like, oh, what do I feel like reading today? Or what am I interested in? And yes, it'll start off. We work on foundational stuff first, and then we kind of go more into the practicalities of midwifery, and then kind of like the harder stuff, like how do we deal with death, and how do we deal with, abusive situations. And then the whole year then closes with a project that you present at the very last session, which again is optional. So everything is optional. How much you participate is really, really up to you. It's self-paced. As Lana said, you show up as you can, whether you're hiding in a broom closet, or breastfeeding your baby, or on your moon, or your children are bouncing around you, or you're traveling in different places and spaces. It's really, really up to you. And that is the beauty of the community. Lana, do you want to add anything to that, kind of more the practicalities of it?
Yeah, there's no preparation to, once a module opens up, usually we then meet live the week following that, but there's no obligation to prepare or know about the topic that is being discussed. And we send out reminder emails the week before and the day before and the hour before, so that people sort of know. We include world time clock. So if you're in Spain, you can type in which city you're in and it'll give you exactly which time we start. It's 3 hours is the duration of the session. What else? The Telegram group really is for the conversation and networking and idea spawning and, thought bouncing space in between the monthly meetups. We really do encourage people to, use that as a safe space to connect with each other, to ask your questions, to bring your wisdom, to offer user space as needed. And then if life happens and you happen to miss the live session, it is recorded and we usually send out it'll have a video, an audio, and a transcript of the recording the following day. And that you have access to, from the Google Drive and on the Teachable platform for as long as you are in the course. Anything. Can't think of anything else. That's sort of the more practical things that I can think of.
Yeah, thank you. We're now an hour into our call, so we'll tie it all together. But yeah, just to kind of, I suppose, draw the thread back to the Silent Birthkeeper and what she is. And I think it's very important to just remember that, being a silent birthkeeper doesn't mean that you're a passive birthkeeper. In many ways, she's deeply observant, although she's not kind of staring at what's happening, but there's an attuned way of observing. And I think, Debs, you were talking about this the other day in one of our sessions. It's like when you're attending births on a regular basis and actually you're having to sit in the dark, quite literally, you learn to sense with all your other senses actually what's taking place in the birth space. So you learn to smell and hear and even taste and smell. And there's this kind of, and scientists will scoff at this idea, but there's this tangible way of just like knowing that that birth is happening, that it's working, and when it's not, there's this kind of stagnancy. And so there's this attunement, I think, to birth and understanding physiology. And on the one hand, it's actually deeply scientific, and then on the other hand, it's very spiritual and kind of non-scientific, because there are things there where you almost have to become a bit of a magician, actually, of the space, of knowing how to create a container, a space that feels safe for the mother so that birth can unfold. And I think just going back to Michelle's words of, the key word being protection is so important to just understand that our role is not about doing and stepping in, although there are times when that is required as a birth attendant. It's not our first role. It's not our first port of call. Our first port of call really is about creating a protected environment. So yeah, what we can maybe just do just to close is to offer a word or a sentence of appreciation of our time together. And I'll begin. I just want to express my appreciation and gratitude to all the women that are here, to Lana and to Debs and to Julia and to Anne and to the women that signed up for this call and are going to listen to the recording. It's really a gift for me to be able to reflect on the space and what it means for me. And I think lastly, it has been a really wonderful space for me, even though I'm the person who officially created it. I feel like it's been such a valuable space for me to be able to lean into and have community and to feel safe and to feel held as a birth attendant in this world. So thank you for listening, and I'll pass that to Lana.
I look forward to seeing who feels called this time around, and I immediately, I already know that it will be the most special group of people, and that, yeah, this work and being able to honor yourself by stepping into this path is probably, it takes a lot of courage and commitment and introspection to be able to do that, to commit to yourself, 3 hours once a month, or, that, engaging with the content on the Teachable platform. More than anything is about nourishing yourself and giving back to the birth keeper, the birth guardian that you're meant to be. So, whether or not this path takes you on actually attending births, whether your role is, birthing children, being a mother, all of those are valuable and deeply respected here. And yeah, we hope that the space becomes part of that journey for you. Thanks. I'm going to pass to dear Debs.
Thank you. It's been lovely to be on the call. And I'm just, yeah, I'm just loving to see the connections building, to actually see a new group forming and like the weaving the webs. And then I'm pretty sure Kate, who you were just talking about, is Kate from England? Yeah. Kate and I have a big connection. So that's just like amazing that, again, it's there straight away, and it just like feels like so good and so important. So seeing this new group forming that will go on after the course I'm doing as well is just wonderful. And how we spiral around and around. Yeah. Thank you.
Thanks, Debs. Yulia, if you have any words of appreciation that you'd like to bring to the space before we close.
Thank you very much for your openness to share your stories, for your sincerity, and for your kindness that I see in your eyes. Thank you for the connection. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Yulia. Very special to have you here. Thank you for making the time to be here. And Anne says, thank you, so beautiful, the spirit of this group. Glad I was able to get a glimpse today. Great. Thank you all. Thank you, Anne, for tuning in. Could definitely sense you taking in what was being shared. Thank you, everybody. Yeah, you're very welcome to follow up with any more questions if you have. Blessings on your day. I'm going to go and spend it with my boy for the rest of the day. Bye-bye.